saw before she changed it.
Hey, Terry, before we start, when are papers due for nominations?
Last week,
You've got time. Not much when you get back, but you got time. I can't remember the date. They were
Oh.
available 13th.
So is it like April 5th or something, or?
No, I can't remember what it is, but I remember that you had time when you get back, that we'll make sure it gets full. You can't escape that easy. No, why did it stop? I tell you.
okay, I show 6 o'clock, so I'll call the meeting to order. Of the March 21st South Thompson Select Board. And if you could all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. And there's a flag there and a flag there.
And I forgot the flag on the Zoom, so you're gonna have to pretend.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Adjustments to the agenda.
I have one, Jeff.
Shoot.
Just permission to submit 2 grants.
Okay.
And I have one brief one, Jeff.
Shoot.
I'd like to just give a very brief 2 minutes, 2 seconds, update on the tennis basketball courts.
Okay. So I'll put the update under old business and the permission to submit grants under new business. Okay, any public comment for anything that's not on the agenda? Yes,
So I would like to get on the agenda for May. I'm going to be away in April, but I would like to present, some of the work we have done related to the map that's on the wall over there. And also, if it's not too early in May, we'll have maybe a report to give about the visit of the district forester. We have a visit arrangement to meet on May 15th.
good, good.
And I will bother Terry probably this week to try to access the title of the town park.
Good.
Survey you mentioned.
Good. Thanks for the update and thanks for putting it off. I just want to make a comment. And I don't want to single you out, but we've had quite a few folks, committees that want to get on the agenda the day before or a couple days before the actual meeting. John and as the chair and Terry work pretty hard at getting an agenda ready
Yes.
a week prior so that we can publicize it and get it out to the public. So it helps them and us. If anybody who wants to be on the agenda or has a decision to be made, that you get that information to us 2 weeks to 10 days prior to the meeting, so that we can properly include it in the agenda. And for yours, I think it's important because what you guys are doing is important. And it's good for the town to know that you're going to be talking on it and getting the information out. But that's true for any of the committees that want to update us, or if they want us to make a decision, it's better to get it on the agenda so that we can properly advertise it. Thank you.
Could I comment on that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I again, this is not meant to single out Catherine at all, but I agree with you. I think we've had a couple of things that have popped up lately, and I always am very uncomfortable making a quick decision about something that we have no background information, no prep on. And it's happening, seems to be more and more frequently. I certainly do understand there are times when something comes up and there's a time sensitivity attached to that. So we need to move ahead quickly. And I don't want us to be paralyzed by that, which is why we do have an adjustments to the agenda category. But I would urge, I support your comment 100%, Jeff. I think that when we have information ahead of time, we make better decisions. Rush decisions tend to be bad decisions. So I just wanted to support your thoughts.
Thanks. Any other public comment?
Now, is this in regard to the piece of property out here that's coming up for sale?
That is on the agenda. When we do that, we'll probably do it in executive session.
Okay. Because I would be all in support of the town. I'm a Jeff Smith, I'm a resident of Owl's Head actually, but I own the piece of land out back here that abuts the town, 100 acres. And if the town could get something going to put their 100 acres into conservation easement of some sort to create like a town forest or something like that, to add that 10-acre piece that's available onto that would be great, because that's old growth. And I own the 118 acres that abuts that. And for like 5 years, I've been trying to get this brought to the front that we should maybe conserve some land so that it's not all solar panels. And you know, have a place for the creatures to live in the next 100 years. So I think it'd be great if we could start something to get the town forest going. That would be you know, forever wild. So I'm just here in support of that. And that's all I have to say, I guess.
Good. And I think after we discuss this, after we go into executive session and discuss this, I think the opportunity to weigh in on that is with the Conservation Committee.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's exactly what the kind of thing that they are looking at.
Right.
So good. Thank you, Jeff. Somebody has their hand up, but I can't tell who. Did somebody want to say something on Zoom?
Yeah.
You could just, it was just more people coming in.
I don't, oh, okay, just somebody adding to it.
Yeah.
Okay. So any other public comment? So next is to review and approve the minutes from March 9.
I move approval of the minutes from March 9th.
I second that.
Any further discussion, additions, corrections? All those in favor, John?
John, I.
Sue?
Aye.
Jeff, I. 3-0. I should have gotten it under adjustments to agenda, but I'd prefer we do the land acquisition discussion at the end of the meeting, because that'll be an executive session. So I want to get everybody out, get everybody done, and then everybody out before we do that. Consider appointments to South Thomaston Community Resilience Committee. Did we have any others other than the 6?
No,
I'm surprised by this. I thought Theo wanted to be on this group committee. And it seems to me someone else expressed interest at that last meeting, so I'm a little surprised that we only had 6. I think we voted up to 11.
I think up to 8,
Well,
11, okay, for some reason.
excuse me, did you send an email requesting people to fill it on website? But boy, what did you send to the,
it may have, I can't remember it off the top of my head.
because I'm surprised to hear that CEO is not on it. And,
Well, that's what I just said. Yeah, I agree.
What
And
was
she
it?
was at the meeting
At that-
last week when we talked about it, and
Right,
Shouldn't she have known?
yes, she should have, because she was on that meeting.
And
she
Penny,
actually, she was gonna tell the other people who weren't at the meeting, and we got a bunch of them, so.
yeah, Penny,
I did notify the other committee members that this would be the meeting, that they would be appointed to send an email or call if they had interest. And Theo said she was going to. We have not met since the March 9th meeting, so it could be, it slipped their mind.
I
Well-
would think it's important to have somebody from the Conservation Commission on this committee.
Was Sally Merchant one of them?
Yes.
Yeah, she's been attending.
Well, I'm curious if we should extend this deadline. My understanding was Theo was gonna, at our last meeting, it was my understanding that Theo was gonna spread the word at the next Sunday meeting, and it sounds like that didn't happen.
Did you have a meeting right after?
We did not.
You didn't, okay.
And also, Terry, I believe you put it on the website, correct?
I did.
Just in case there was anybody else who was interested.
I mean, we could appoint the 6 that sent in. There's no reason why we can't appoint
More later.
more of them at the next meeting.
Agreed.
Yeah, I guess where we have 11 slots, that would be okay, because I doubt we're gonna get 5 more, but if we did get, my only concern would be if there were 7 slots, but I guess I'm just a little surprised. Is there a time sensitivity on this?
Penny?
I don't believe so. I think that you have agreed to appoint a committee is enough to fulfill our resolution. There is an issue with the resolution from last month that John had voted on the first version, you guys voted on the second version. And it is the first version that we needed to get approved, so that's gonna come back at the next meeting. So maybe appointing more members at that time.
Now, what's the issue?
The first paragraph of the resolution was supposed to include the project that we had gathered the
Yeah,
community input on, and John asked what VFR was, and we're all like, huh?
Yeah.
And that is in the original, and I did send it to Terry again tonight, just a few minutes ago.
okay.
And,
Well, I think we voted on that first paragraph and made changes in the second and third paragraph.
okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
one that Terry sent out did not include the first paragraph.
And that's what I sent him. I sent him it again. I said I left off the top when I copied and
Okay,
pasted
yeah.
the first part. Flipped off, the copy and
Okay.
paste. And so I sent him the whole thing and he said that looked good. He was gonna send it to me.
Well, good, but see, we haven't met, so I haven't,
Okay.
and that didn't come over in an email. Oh, great, that's fun then. Hopefully
Yeah,
you want our list.
Just to clarify, I was supportive of it. I just simply asked that when Terry finalized it, if we could just spell out what that acronym stood for, that's all.
I did ask him to clarify that.
Okay, so what's your druthers? You want to
Well, I'd prefer to table it. I feel like there's a little bit of confusion here, and if there's no time sensitivity, and the group didn't meet, I mean, Theo clearly said she was going to spread the word at that next Sunday meeting. I recall her saying that, and it sounds like that meeting didn't transpire. So there may be others.
Yep, so do I hear that as a motion to table?
I'll make a motion, we table it.
Until our next meeting,
Yes.
which is the 21st of April, is that right? No, 25th of April. We hear a second.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? John,
John, I.
Sue,
Aye.
Jeff, I. And John, you want to update us on the tennis courts?
Yeah, just real briefly, we had put out a bid to repave the basketball court. It was due the 14th and we got no bids. So I'm gonna talk to Doug Beck and find out if we can try to negotiate with one of the local contractors or something, or what's our path forward when we don't get a bid? This is federal money, so we were supposed to bid it, but if you don't get any. So I just wanted to let you know, I'm gonna reach out to him and explain and find out what's our path forward.
And thank you for that update.
Yep.
Okay, new business. David. Are you there, David? Chief David?
Where you
Yep.
go?
I'm here, I was just eating dinner, sorry.
That's all right.
All right. So we have two grants that we'd like to put in for. One of them, the deadline's coming right up in a couple weeks. Let me just look. There's the MMA safety grant. And then the other is, where'd it go? The other is the Department of Administrative and Financial Services Safety Grant. So the first one, the MMA safety grant, we'd like to put in for air bottles. And then the next one, we're in the process of rewriting our SOPs. And when we're finished with that, we have a company that would type them up and get them online with hyperlinks and all that stuff. So we'd have them right in the trucks with us. So we're hoping that that grant will cover that. And these are both non-matching grants.
Okay, is the MMA one the one that you guys thought about doing and then decided not to, or is this a new one?
No, that was the FEMA.
That was FEMA, okay.
That, what you talking about? What Amy was
Yeah,
gonna do? Yeah, that was the FG grant.
okay.
These are the ones that we, the safety grants, one that we put in for every year. We usually go for bottles. That kind of covers us for like 2 or 3 bottles every year.
Yep.
I have a question regarding the MMA grant. Terry, my understanding was you were looking to put in an MMA grant?
I was, I talked with David, and it's gonna be more cost effective for him to put in a grant and get money than if I put in what we were thinking of to get money.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we weren't. I'm glad you guys are talking. That's great.
Right. And that's the real reason that even though there's no money associated with it, that's the real reason that we kind of prefer people to bring these to the select board on grants that they're getting ready to do, to make sure that other departments either can piggyback or have to stand down. So, and some kind of coordination goes on. So that's good. So I absolutely have no issues with going for somebody else's money to pay for our stuff.
And I do have 3,800 in there for the new bottles. The MMA one, I think we have to purchase the bottles first, and then they reimburse us. And
Right.
that is a line item now, so we have enough to do that. So I just need to know,
Is it
how
this
I
year?
go about-
Money?
what's that?
You got the money in this year's budget as opposed to next year? Okay,
Well, both budgets.
right.
Yep. And I just need to know how to get the selectmen to sign the grant when we submit it.
Yeah, we can include in the motion an authorization for the acting chair to sign it.
Okay, perfect. That's all I needed to know.
I have one more question. Do you know the amounts of these grants?
both-
Applications?
I think they're both 3,000.
Okay. And again, David, I would echo what Jeff said earlier. I'd love to get these things in ahead of time if possible. I know particularly with grants, things come up quickly and you got to move quickly. So, but if at all possible.
Yeah, well, once we get in the groove of things here, things we'll know
Yeah.
way ahead of time. Right now, we're trying to catch up.
Yep, understood, understood. I'll make a motion that we authorize the chair to execute 2 grant applications to MMA and DAFs on behalf of the fire department.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion?
I guess
John?
is that motion, is that motion got good enough for David?
Yeah, I
for
think
your
so.
needs? I didn't know if there was anything in the grant application that required specific language or not, but,
Not that I know of.
okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? John,
John, I.
Sue,
Aye.
Jeff, I. Thank you,
you.
David.
Thank you.
Okay, Kevin. Oh, did Kevin leave? No. Discussion,
here.
the certified ratio.
Yes. Well, where to begin? I guess
Can I
I'll
ask a
begin
quick
by
question?
introducing myself.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna ask a quick question, but I'll wait till you introduce yourself.
Well, just for those who are on here that I haven't yet met, my name is Kevin McCormick, and I'm the assessor's agent for the town of South Palmerston. And I've been asked to speak a little bit today about the certified ratio and the effect that it's having and may have on the town as a whole and taxpayers of the towns, and what there is that we might be able to do about it for the coming year.
Good. This is a very timely topic. Real quick, and I've been trying to figure this out. There used to be, in association with the certified ratio, that if we were more than, I think 20%, I think if we went below 80% of what the state said our valuation was, that's when it triggered impacts on veterans and homestead and tree growth, I think tree growth ratios, that as long as you were 80 to 100%, you still were able to pay out 100% on those. But it appears that in the last few years, there might have been a change. Al's head still thinks there's a trigger at 80. But last year we ended up doing it as if there was no magic trigger. It's whatever your ratio is.
Right. Yeah, and that is the case. Yeah, it is. It's based on what your ratio is. So whatever your ratio is, for instance, last year that ratio was 94%. And so naturally your homestead exemption, veterans exemption, blind, and so on, are all affected by that 94% certified ratio number.
Kevin,
And
Kevin, can I interrupt 1 second? When you say 94% certified ratio, for my benefit and others, that simply means that the valuation that the town of South Thomaston is carrying on its books is 94% of what the state believes our total valuation is. Is that correct?
yes, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
There's a little more, it goes into a little more depth there.
But that's the general.
Essentially, yes.
Okay.
So basically what happens is the state sends a representative from the state once a year to every municipality. And that's what they're there for, is to do what they call a sales ratio study. In the end, they give us this worksheet that's titled Certified Ratio Declaration Form. It's an annual worksheet which every municipality has to fill out and get returned by June 1st. Basically on the worksheet, they give you a range that you can choose from. And there are other options as well. So you can choose between those, that certain range that they allow you, or you can choose to do something else and therefore allow the town to go outside of those parameters. Okay. So one of the something else that you can do is a revaluation. At this point, a town-wide revaluation for a town the size of South Thomaston is a very costly procedure. I will say it is something that the town really needs to put a great deal of thought in the near future. The town of South Thomaston has not had a full revaluation since, I believe it's 2005, if I'm not mistaken. These revaluations don't last forever. As a matter of fact, the state recommends, it's just a recommendation, but the state recommends once every 10 years doing a town-wide revaluation. There's another option that we could look at for the coming year. It's something that we would have to start very soon, because the deadline for this form is again June 1st. So and that is what we refer to as a factoring. Okay, so essentially what you're doing is looking at all of the data that you have for sales and trying to do exactly what the state has already done, a sales ratio study, but we would do it with the most current information as well. And what we would attempt to do is create a factor that would allow us to commit taxes at 100% certified ratio. That factor would then be applied to every tax account in TRIO. This, I will, before I go any further, I will say that this is not the answer for the town, but it would get you by for a year or two. We refer to it as a Band-Aid only. It's not going to fix your problem, but it will get you by. It will allow you to certify 100%. It'll allow the taxpayers who should be receiving a full $25,000 for a homestead exemption to receive that full amount, rather than last year, 94% of that amount, and this year, a proposed 87% of that amount. That is what we need to, I guess, discuss.
Go ahead, John.
Yes, John.
Couple of questions. I guess a comment and then a question. One is I want to make it clear, and correct me if I'm wrong, that if we factor every property by the same number, then nobody's taxes are going to increase proportionally to anyone else's. It's simply raising everyone else, all the values up. So if everything else remained equal, the taxes would be the same. Correct?
Correct.
Okay, so before people panic, I wanted to get that out there. The other thing, and again, because everything won't remain the same because we're gonna have school increases and budget, blah, blah, blah. But
Of course.
in theory, if it did. Okay, the other question I have is, we have you under contract, is for certain duties, do you see developing as factoring as part of that or in excess of that? And if in excess, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I will review the contract. I haven't done that at this point to determine whether it falls into my quote duties or not. I think that'll be the first thing to do is review the contract, and you can of course feel free to do the same. If it is something that is outside of our agreed upon contract, it's not a huge procedure. It will be a little bit more time consuming in the town of South Palmerston because South Palmerston has two assessing systems versus some of the other towns that we've done factors in the past. Trio is very easy to apply a factor, a blanket factor for every account in the town. Vision, we don't know yet. So I have never had to, at this point, do a factor in any town that I've worked that has the vision system. So that will require a phone call, and I'm sure there's a way to do it. I'm not aware of it. I don't know what the correct route is other than call them and have them guide us through. But either way, I guess to get back to your question, it's not a lengthy process to do a factoring. So, I mean, if it doesn't fall within my contract, I would say if you planned on 3 or 4 days, you would be plenty safe.
Okay, that's the reason I asked the question, because we're going into budget meetings here very quickly, very shortly.
Sure.
So it sounds like if we don't have an answer for them, we may want to make a slight adjustment to the budget, just to cover ourselves. But thank you.
Yes. Yep.
So a quick question on this. So the state has said we're at a ratio of 79%. And we can tell them that really it's closer to 87% because that's the range they allow, correct?
Yeah. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
So the other part of the question is, could we just raise everybody by 21% and satisfy that requirement, or does it involve more detailed review to make that adjustment?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first of all, get back to your first question, and basically what they allow is 10% of the 79%. You can increase your declared certified ratio by 10% of their 79%. So they round up to 8%, and that's where, you know, your max ends up being 87. Okay. Secondly, basically what you want to do with a factoring is you want to figure it out so that you can increase the town by the smallest amount and still achieve 100% according to the state. So the answer may not be just as easy as saying 21% will get us there. As a matter of fact, I think that we're going to be able to use a lesser number than 21% and still achieve that 100% certified ratio. And obviously you don't want to make any bigger adjustments on the town than you really have to get to where you want to get. So yeah, I guess in a nutshell, there is a little bit more to it than just simply doing the math.
So the second part of it is that the process that you're looking at doing, that you're recommending the Band-Aid for us.
Yep.
Doesn't take into consideration whether it's oceanfront or any of the other categories that we have for land. It's just across the board, whatever that number turns out to be, it's across the board for everybody.
That's correct.
Okay, so at the other extreme, so I would see that as one extreme. At the other extreme is we do a complete reeval, a total reeval, which is a lengthy process, expensive process, and involves a whole lot more, and we won't be able to get it done by June 1st.
Exactly.
But there is an in-between, right? We could do targeted areas so that we say which one is more out of whack, the shoreland or the landlocked properties, and do an adjustment that's appropriate for that particular type of property. Is that correct?
You can do that. Yes.
Much more involved, but not near as involved as a flow. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
And
you don't draw as much attention, I guess.
Right.
If you just put a blanket factor on the entire town, it's the same punishment, if you will, for everybody. It's not like you're segregating one particular type, like waterfront, for instance. But yes, the answer to your question is you certainly could do studies on certain land types and apply a factor to those. John?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I got two questions on that. One is even that's going to take some time, and June 1st is not that far away.
Right.
I guess that's not a question, that's a comment. But the other thing is, I guess I'm curious, how is our quality ratio? Is it in bad shape? My sense was we weren't too bad. And I thought we had the last year or two had sort of tentatively agreed, which doesn't mean it can't be revisited tonight or in the short term, to kind of let this crazy market settle out a little before we started tinkering. If our quality, I mean, I've said this before, as long as everybody's treated equally unfairly, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, has our quality rating gone downhill lately or in this last year? Because I think in the year before, it wasn't too bad.
I honestly can't tell you exactly what your quality rating is right now. I don't have that information with me. But I think if I remember correctly, and maybe I shouldn't put myself out there like this, but I think it's in the vicinity of 18, which is relatively good.
Okay.
I have a study in front of me, but it doesn't have the quality rating figured. Yeah. So I guess I'm not positive of what that number is.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I guess my inclination, Jeff and Sue, would be to simply apply the across the board number. We just brought Kevin on as our assessors agent. I mean, he was our assessors agent before through another company, but he wasn't working here full time. Let him get a little more feet under himself, so to speak. And so that's my inclination. If our quality ratio is not that bad, and that was my sense from the last time I looked at the data. But I do think that people should understand that even though their valuations go up, it actually will help taxpayers in the sense that they'll get the full homestead reimbursement. And because right now they're not getting that, and in effect, they're getting, for lack of a better word, punished, if you will, by not having a certified ratio that gets the full homestead reimbursement, and the others too, but the homestead's the big one.
Right.
So that would be my inclination.
Yeah, and John, just so you know, I agree with you 100%. I was not advocating for the middle of the road one. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood what our options are. I think the middle of the road one is probably the purer one, but it would mean that if waterfront is, and I think last year waterfront was closer, so waterfront would go up less if we had done it last year than landlocked. But it would mean that somebody would pay less in taxes than somebody else. Likely that somebody would pay less than they would have if we hadn't done anything. But by doing it across the board, no impact on anybody's taxes other than an improvement in what they get as a deduction for the homestead exemption.
Jeff, just so you know, Walter's had his hand up for a while. I don't know if you.
Oh, I don't even see those little hands.
Yeah, I know. That's why I
Yeah.
mentioned it.
Oh,
Yeah. Go ahead, Walter.
You're muted.
I was muted, so you didn't hear my gurgling when I was drinking. Kevin, would you just quickly re-explain what the factor does?
sure. Yeah. So the factor is applied to basically applied to all of your assessments in town. And it is signifying that the town is a certain percentage away from current market value. It's not common, but it could also be that the certified ratio could be more than 100%. Again, not common, but yep.
Okay, couple things. So I think what I heard was that that the results of being out of whack in terms of this ratio are that people are not getting the full impact of homestead, woodlot, and some other exemption veterans. But if you apply this factor that raises people's valuations and therefore stands to raise their tax bill, would you then come to each individual and say, we're going to raise your taxes by $1,000, so that you can get $200 more of homestead exemption. I mean, seems to me there's personal math involved. I'm not liking where this is headed. But
Walter, it does not increase your taxes. Your taxes are based on what we budget.
well, I know, yes, I'm quite aware of that.
Okay, so if everybody's here, then the percentage is at X amount to get the same number of dollars. If we raise it, everybody's raised, the percentage goes down, but the amount stays the same.
Yeah, no, I've been through this myself.
Right. So
Many
there
times,
is
so-
no increase in taxes
Well,
by this kind of a reeval.
oh, no question about that. Just two other points. Generally, I'm not a fan of kicking cans down the road, but I just want to agree with John that the front page of the Wall Street Journal today said that housing values in the country declined for the first time in 11 years last month. I think that trend is going to continue. So a major reval, I would argue, this is not the time. And I think John mentioned that as well. The other question I have is, and I don't have the history on this, I just have the folklore. Wasn't the favorable or unfavorable or inequitable treatment of one type of property versus another back in 2005, 2006? Wasn't that one of the drivers of the hurry up reval that the town had to do because the state was putting pressure on you guys? And when I hear that that we want to go and selectively reval some people as opposed to others, that sounds to me like getting back into the same difficulty as back in the early 2000s. Or do I have that folklore wrong?
Well, I think you have the folklore right, but I think your assumption is incorrect. I think the purpose was 180 degrees of that. The purpose was by segregating ones, it was to try to get everybody back to market or close to market.
Right. That's what happened in 2006 was to do that level.
Right.
Okay.
So the adjustments were different on different parcels because certain parcels, let's say, and I don't even know the case, but let's say waterfront was at 80% and landlocked was at 95%. The idea was to get them both to 100. So one would have a greater percentage increase than the other, and they hopefully get both back to 100.
Okay.
Now,
So
it's never perfect, but
so the thrust of, I think, Jeff's comments was not to repeat not recreate that problem.
yeah,
Okay.
and that's why I asked what our quality ratio was, because again, I'll say it again, as long as everybody's treated equally unfairly, I'm okay.
And I probably should have brought this up in public comment, but can I make a request of the board or ask for the sense of the board on something?
Yeah, go ahead. You got your hand up.
Okay. The senior citizen stabilization law that was passed last year is under attack. And the fact is that might be declared unconstitutional anyway, because it favors one class of taxpayers over another. But it is under attack. My request would be that if the board agrees that that's a good thing, that you jointly send your feelings on that agreement to Ann Matlack, who is one of the champions of rolling that law back, and to Penny Beebe Center as well. And if you don't agree, that's fine, because they've already heard my opinion on the subject.
Which position are you asking us if we agree with?
retain that law.
So you favor retaining it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
I
'cause-
can tell you personally, I don't. So
Well,
that's just me.
and I think from my perspective, it's premature to weigh in on it because there are actually like 10 different proposals. Some of them are strengthening that law. Some of them are eliminating some of the administrative issues associated with managing that law. And then some of them are proposing to do away with it.
Right.
So which one we point them to, I think is premature. I'd like to see where it ends up. Which direction they seem to be going in before.
Okay.
we weigh in.
well, sorry.
Because my issue is it's not sustainable. The state will at some point back away from it. And we're the town, the rest of the taxpayers in the town will be held holding the bill for it. So that's one issue. But the other part is that there are some parts of it that are just kooky. Okay, so I mean, literally, if you live in South Thomaston and you own a piece of property for X amount of dollars and you decide you're going to upgrade to another house, another property that's double that, you keep the taxes owed on the shack that you had. Or if you go to another town where
Like
they're
Portland.
where they're 20% and we're at 15%, you still keep our 15% in their town. I think that all of that is crazy. It's kooky.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't think the state is gonna continue to fund it 5 years from now. And so they need to fix something on it. I just don't know which direction they're talking about heading in right now.
That's a reasonable, I can't disagree with that approach because you're right. They seem to have jammed that thing through. When I signed up for it, I said, this is great. And I know it won't last. I will outlast the benefit. and we'll probably have to pay for having had the benefit.
Yeah. And it's really going to be interesting when this year, when our mill rate drops, how that's going to affect the whole process as well. Okay, so we're way off subject and Kevin is waning. So I think you would like a motion from the board to allow you to start to work on the in adjusting our valuation so that our ratio comes out to be 100. Is that true?
Yeah, yep. Again, I mean, we refer to it, if you're looking for terminology, we refer to it as a factoring. That's what the state knows it as, but yeah, essentially that's what it's doing is allowing you to adjust that certified ratio up to 100%, therefore adjusting everything, homesteads, veterans, blind, all of the exemptions will be adjusted back up to 100%.
So I'll make a motion. We instruct our assessors agent to begin working on adjusting our certified ratio to 100%, utilizing an equal factor on all taxable parcels.
I will second that motion.
Okay, any further discussion, even though we have discussed it a whole lot already?
I would assume that Kevin will come back to us one more time once you have the numbers and the data, and we can go over that before you actually submit, correct?
I certainly will.
Okay,
So our next meeting is April 25th. Is that enough time?
April 25th it should be enough time, Jeff.
Okay.
The only, and I say should be because I don't know how Vision is going to be to deal with on this. I suspect that because we're we're a client of theirs. They will help us along with this. But I haven't worked with them a lot in the past, and I've never worked with them on this sort of project. So I don't know how that will go.
And
I would suspect that a month would be sufficient, though.
Okay.
Well, I'd
My
like us-
understanding,
Go ahead.
my understanding of Vision, our use of Vision is not to do our tax calculations at all. It's where the maps reside so that people exterior can access Vision to see the properties. That's my understanding.
All Kevin used, that's what you use, Kevin. All the assessing information is there. In Vision.
In Vision, so that's the tool he uses?
That's what you use, isn't it, Kevin?
Yeah, both of the systems are used equally, and in the past, we've really strived to make the two systems match. Therefore, when somebody goes on your website to research a property in town, the information they're going to get on that website, I think I'm correct in saying this, Terry, is from Vision.
Correct.
And of course, a lot of the information that we have in the town, commitment book, that sort of thing, that's from Trio. So it's important to try to keep these two systems so that they match. We don't want to be misleading any of our taxpayers on values.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I would suggest that Kevin, even if he's not done, check in with us on April, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
25th.
Good. All right. Any further discussion? I don't see Walter's hand up this time, so.
No.
Okay. All right, John,
John, I.
Sue,
Aye.
Jeff, I. Thank you, Kevin. That was very informative.
Okay.
Okay, and we have an application for catered function on the Rocks bartending services.
Correct.
Yep. Do you have anything to add to the paperwork that we've got for it?
Not at this moment.
I move approval.
I second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
One thing that I would like, last year we talked about, we just talked about before the beginning of the meeting, is that being able to have the application filled out and having either, someone sign off on this, instead of me coming or us having to come to the board meeting. If that's a problem or or discussion on it anyways.
Yeah, I think we are in the discussion phase, so I agree. I was going to bring that up as it's been a year. We've had half a dozen of these. That there appears to be no real issues with it or any controversy, and I'm all for letting the administrator sign for the approve and sign these. What do you think, John?
Well, I just want to point out, we either got to, it's either everybody or nobody. We can't do it just for one business. And I'm not, I guess I'm not opposed to it, but number one, I'd like to have it on the agenda. Because that's a different issue than we're dealing with tonight.
Right.
Sure.
And I'd also like to get Terry's thoughts on it when we discuss it. And I'd like her to give her a chance to think about it, and because it kind of puts her in the hot seat, so to
Yeah.
speak. So I'd like to give Terry a chance to think about it, and and I definitely would like it to be on the agenda and not something we decide tonight.
Okay, I'm for that. So what is on the agenda is the approval for this one, and then we'll put on the agenda for the next meeting, a discussion of who does it in the future.
The next meeting.
Yeah, which is the 25th. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? John?
John, I.
Sue?
Aye.
Jeff, I. Okay, execute the septic waste disposal facility agreement with Interstate Septic.
I move approval.
You'll need it.
People to sign that for him so he could leave, or do you want to come back and pick it up tomorrow, Russell?
Oh, it's right here.
They usually sign things at the end.
I think it's right here, right? That's it, right?
That'd be great. Thank you.
But Terry, you need to keep a copy.
Yep, I'll copy it right over there on the handy dandy ambulance thing that works 90% of the time.
And hopefully this is one of those.
Right, no, run up to the office.
And these were gonna hold off on, right? The,
Yeah. Okay, so back to the septic system, John.
I move approval.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I'm just gonna say, I was just gonna say, I'm surprised that it didn't go up, given the big difficulties that a lot of disposal facilities are experiencing around the state. I was prepared for this to triple.
Yeah. Yeah, I was expecting it to go up too, with fuel costs and everything else, so
Hmm.
keeping it the same is good. Any further discussion? John,
John, I.
Sue,
Aye.
Jeff, I. Okay. And that was John, Sue, 3-0. Next is consider electric estimate to replace the lights in the municipal building.
I'd like to move ahead with this.
Yeah, me too. The only question I've got is, does it include downstairs?
No, it was only the
Right.
15 lights upstairs.
Okay.
I'm sure he'd be happy to.
For a little more money.
Right.
Well, I think we should, personally, we should go ahead with this, and if for some reason Ed can't get it done by July 1st, we should make a note to carry this forward. Whatever we need.
I agree. So do I hear a motion?
Well. What was his
Just one-
estimate there, Terry? I don't see it in the notes.
32,
32,
1040.
right.
32. Well, I'm gonna make a motion to include downstairs to, I don't know, up to 5,000. I don't think it'll be that much, but I hate to have come back.
Yep. Okay, move.
Okay, I would second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, John,
John, I.
Sue,
Aye.
Jeff, I.
How many lights are downstairs there?
Either 6 or 8.
So that should be. I would call Ed Thurston.
Okay, next one is discuss designating Village Cemetery as a Wreaths Across America site. And so I listened to a spiel by somebody local who has volunteered for Wreaths Across America for the last, I think he said 8 years. Don Grinnell, he goes down to the cemetery in DC, to Arlington, and lays the wreaths out. So he gave a presentation on the whole process. And it turns out that there are currently probably half a dozen cemeteries in the state of Maine that are also Wreaths Across America cemeteries. So they provide the wreaths for the veterans in those cemeteries. And so I got this at a Lions Club meeting. the Lions Club voted to donate money to them. So in the process of donating the money, I went online and I looked at the process for becoming a site for the Wreaths Across America. And it's not too onerous. And so far, I haven't seen any cost. There's a requirement that we do a ceremony, and it would be on or about December 16th every year. And so before I did that, before I went online and said, hey, let's make our village cemetery a Wreaths Across America cemetery, I wanted to make sure that the select board didn't have a problem with it. I want to make sure that Penny's on board with it as well. And I think my hope is that the Lions Club and the VFW or the Legion could participate in this. So I don't think I actually need a vote, but I just want to make sure that I'm not stepping on anybody's toes or anybody has a problem with us.
I have no
doing it.
problem with it.
And at the same time, an appeal to the public that once we start doing this, that there might be an opportunity for people to volunteer and help out. So
To put the wreaths on and then to take them out.
correct. Yeah. And it's a two-step process. You put them in, and I think they take them out in January, middle of January or something like that. Penny?
So what do they do with them? When they are removed, do they go in our stump dump?
Yeah, I think they do. I think we end up, Jeff, did you?
There are places that take them for like people that own goats. and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
So that'd be.
Yeah.
But maybe they have no metal parts in them.
Yeah, I think
I
these
think,
do
yeah,
have
they
metal.
would have wire. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the goat people in the town don't want reeds, they want trees because there's no metal. But they're-
That makes sense.
So, and that, so they can't go in the burn pile. They, what I do informally at my house, and that's gathering leaves from all the cemeteries, but that's not 150
Right.
out of the village, is I compost them and let the
The metal drop in.
natural material fall off,
Yeah.
and then I recycle the metal. But this is a 150 anyway.
There's,
Village is good.
there's 150 veterans. in
Yeah.
Yeah, in just the
Wow.
village
I
and
didn't think the whole cemetery was that big.
yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Wow.
I mean, there's well over 300 veterans in town. And that's my other thing is that
Yeah, and I actually thought about broadening, but I want to start on the village and see how that goes, and then maybe we can take it to the others. But John, you got any input or?
Well, I was just gonna say, I don't really have any input about the process, but in terms of the disposal, it strikes me that we could throw these in a separate pile out back and burn them and then have someone pick up the metal.
That's a good point.
Unless there's some, toxicity or something to the metal that I'm not aware of, but
Do we burn the Christmas trees?
and if worst came to worst, we could put them in the hopper. I mean, 100, how big are these things?
They're regular wreaths, so they're
Yeah, okay, so if worst came to worst, we could put them in the hopper.
okay.
are these on, they stand of some sort, do you lay them on grave?
They lean them against the headstone is how they do them at Arlington.
But I mean, we don't have all upstanding headstones,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
I haven't had any experience with program. I'm more than happy to. I wonder if we should leave the veterans flags up until the wreaths go down, just so it makes it easier to find them,
Oh, that might be a good idea.
because, those markers are
Yeah.
easy to miss.
Yeah.
And, perhaps it could be, gather the flags, lay the wreath, then you can dispose of the flag.
Yeah. Good. Okay, so what I hear is press forward and you're in favor of doing it. Okay. Thank you. Okay, discussion on the town report.
Jeff, could I request that we put this off towards the end? Because this
Yeah.
could be fairly lengthy. Because, and kind of couple it with review of the revenues for the 24 budget. I think they're sort of related.
Yep.
And also, I know Jeff is here to talk about the Klein lot, and I don't know if that's, I see Jessica Pooley, is it? Are you here for that purpose? I know we probably, if we want to start talking about an offer, we probably want to do it in an executive session, but we might want to begin this conversation outside of that. And just, because I know there's some interesting comments on that. And so I was thinking maybe we could take that out of order to help these folks out. But that's up to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind that at all.
I just think F could be lengthy.
Yeah. So I think if we move F and I down below and go ahead and get G and H out of the way, I think.
Yep.
So G is consider approving town administrator applying for an MMA grant and that's been withdrawn.
Right.
Okay.
That
So
was good.
we'll pass on that. And discussion of light outside of Guilford Butler. What's the latest on that, Penny?
This was supposed to be done, I think the original request was made before we had the time fell back last year. And we were scheduled for December 10th, 15th, something like that. And that was pushed off till January, and then they showed up and they didn't realize it was a new light. So they pushed us off again, this time until March, and said they had to order an arm, which, this is a parking lot light. I don't know why they didn't do their homework ahead of that, or just understand it was a new light, it was not a street light. And now they have delayed again until April 30th, and frankly, probably won't need it at that point. And I have been rethinking with discussion with Terry that, I think we'd be better served with a light that operated by a switch within the building. But if we didn't have a meeting until 9 o'clock, we didn't have to have the light on, out of consideration for the neighbors. And also, if the light isn't on until 9 o'clock every night, it could be the skaters are there till 9 o'clock every night, whether it's dark or not. So I would. And also there's the matter of paying this fee to have access to control these lights. That it sounds like this is the only light we would need to really control, which seems kind of excessive for the amount of money and concern. And I just didn't have that control in-house with a switch rather than have to call Terry and say, okay, we don't, it's now August, we don't need the light to stay on until 9 regardless. So that was my thought about continuing with adding this to the streetlight contract.
Have you talked to who are you going to have do the?
Well, BC Electric is going to work on the generator and the porch lights that are connected now to the entire, halogen lights, the big lights we don't want to use anymore. They were security lights when it was a school, and we don't want to use those. We just want to have our porch light come on and not have to turn on all the way. So they're going to put it back the way it was, where they're operated by a switch. So I think they could take on adding a light to the pole, the existing pole.
And the pole is ours, right? And we'd have to pay somebody to put in regardless of
The pole is there.
Right.
The pole's there.
But who owns the poles? Is it CMP's or is it ours?
That's a good question. I see.
You know, and where are we gonna have to pay CMP directly, or can we tie it into the building system? I'm all in favor of dumping Headstrom on this. But my other question is, are we gonna be on the hook to Headstrom for the stuff they've ordered?
Well, we need an arm regardless, so if we have to buy the arm,
Yeah, but the new electrician might want to do it differently. I guess I'm supportive of getting BC or Ed Alley or someone to take a look at it and see what we can do and how much it would cost. And I generally agree with you, Penny, that this is ridiculous, that what Hedstrom is doing. And I think controlling it from the inside, I mean, the last person out who's at a meeting there could shut it off or whatever. I mean, I think that makes perfect sense. You're not gonna, the Conservation Commission meets there, they're not gonna call Terry at 9 o'clock at night and say, can you turn the light on? So I support it. I just think we need some more information before we move ahead.
Jeff?
One thing to input, with the invasion of the brown tail moth, the less bright lights we have, the better. You know, if you can turn that thing off and not have it on all the time, or not all the time, when it's not needed, the better.
Yeah. So
Okay.
can we dig up some more info on this from either BC or Ed or someone? If Ed's coming down to do work, I mean, I'm not wedded to either one. BC's fine, but
And
I'm willing to talk to BC. I've got to find out what our next step is for the generator.
I'll let you do it, Penny. You know what you want down there.
Should we go ahead and contact Headstrom and
Yeah.
cancel that and just say we don't want them anymore and cancel the arm and then
Yeah.
let whoever we hired take care of the whole thing?
yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, my sense is BC is gonna say, oh, I don't want to use that arm or whatever. It's just
Right.
gonna get complicated and
Right,
Right. Yeah, the only exception would be if Hedstrom says we've already ordered the arm and you're gonna have to pay for it anyway.
Yeah.
But
We'll
I
try to get out of
think
that.
as much as they've been putting us off, that we ought to just tell them, forget it, we're going
Yeah.
a different route.
yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right. So you want to go ahead and talk about wherever it went to the property?
Yeah, I'd like to start this conversation in public, and then maybe if we start talking about, if we are, before, if then go into executive session, if we're talking about numbers or or even if want to make some sort of offer or whatever, but I guess I'd like to understand a little bit more about the property. So can I start with a couple of questions?
Yes.
Okay. My understanding is the property is landlocked. I guess this is more a question to Jeff. I know, Jeff, you access your property with a lease you hold with the town going through our property. Or at least you used to. I don't know if I don't know if that's still in place or not, but it is, okay. But how has this property been traditionally accessed in any way that you're aware of?
It's Ralph Klein owned it for as long as I can remember. Ralph Jr. passed away, now it's passed on to his son. And it's a 10-acre lot, it's an old growth lot. He doesn't log, even though Ralph was a logger, he never went out there and logged because he didn't have access. He talked to my dad about going out there, and Ralph and I went out and walked the road. He talked about logging it, but he never did. And so that's an old growth 10-acre lot, which is, not a lot of them left. So I think it would be beneficial to add to the town lot. If you're gonna do any conservation, that's a great lot to add to your property to the budget. And you just spent $33,000 on lights. He's asking 35,000 for that land.
32,000 on lights.
No.
3,200.
3,200.
Yeah. Oh, did I miss a zero?
That's a lot.
32, 710.
Well, that doesn't really answer my question, though. Has it traditionally, even though it doesn't have a legal right of way or access, has it traditionally been accessed by
No.
through your lot or through the town lot? I know you know more about that area than anybody out there, so.
No, Ralph never had an agreement like we did, and as far as I know, Ralph has never been able to access that lot.
And he never came in from the 131 side or that you're
Not that I'm
aware of?
aware of.
Okay, okay.
He doesn't have
May
a
I,
right.
may I address the board? I have some information.
Great.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, so I'm Jessica Pooley. I'm the realtor that's representing Mr. Klein. And so there is, according to his attorney, I don't want to say ancient because I don't know how old it is, but there is a right of way that has since grown up, but can be reconstituted. And it is Mr. Klein's intention. He wanted to offer it to the town and the abutters first. If no one is interested in absorbing it to their land, then he intends to pursue having that reconstituted so that there will be legal access to the property and it will be considerably more valuable because of the size of the parcel, plus, as Jeff has pointed out, the valuable standing timber there. So
Where is that access and which
I'm
deed?
not sure. I spoke with his attorney, Jack Sanford, last week, and it's part of our list of things to look at. I haven't dug into it because we were hoping that we could benefit one of the abutters before exploring that. So at this point, for me, it's not relevant, so I haven't identified that location yet.
Because that kind of contradicts the letter that we got
Yeah.
from Tiffany. Look,
Yeah, Tiffany is my agent as well. So she's the one that wrote the letter under my instruction. And I was under the impression, as Jeff stated, that there wasn't ever any access, only because nobody had accessed it. But his attorney identified that after the letter was sent, that
okay, so his attorney is saying that there
Correct.
is legal access, but there isn't physical access at this point because that legal access has grown in.
right.
Okay.
But, yeah, but the only, as I understand it, the only two properties that would be on would be Jeff's or ours.
No.
Or
there's one
Hoppy. There's another abutter, Hoppy.
on the
Oh.
131 side.
Right,
Okay.
there is.
And there might even be one to the east. I mean, the west.
Oh, no.
But anyways, okay.
This is from the end of the new solar farm. I mean, I see there is a solar farm that's being
Yeah, you're
built on
right.
the other side, of 131. And so that's very important to find out that legal access, because the solar farm is going to be built and they may well end up blocking the access. So there is urgency in the matter, I would say.
I don't think the solar farms gonna block it.
No. I don't
Is it
have
on one of
the
these parcels that's showing on this map, the solar farm?
Not the one that's built already, and the one that where your brother's land is.
It's
here,
on the
right?
other side.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so.
it's
This one.
next to Russell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't, not even,
but the other one is further up,
Right,
not
this-
even on this map at all.
No, didn't I write the names on your map? So I just write them on mine.
Yeah, but I don't know who has the
Oh, it
solar
was
farm.
the Hawkins. Yeah,
Terry,
so,
Terry, do you know what we have it appraised at for tax purposes?
No, I don't, but I can. Look.
Could
I
you-
have that information here. It's 12,500. 12,500.
If Jeff or Catherine or Jessica doesn't have anything else to add at this point, I would like to make a motion to go into executive session with the board, but I don't want to cut off if someone else wants to say anything else.
I'm just here to answer questions.
Is there
Okay.
a rush on selling that piece of land? I mean, like, how much time?
Mr. Klein is ready to sell it, no longer serves his needs, and so he's interested in selling it as soon as possible. But it was important to him to try this route prior to bringing it forward for public purchase.
I don't understand that.
So he wanted to give abutters an opportunity to absorb it before he worked on reconstituting the right of way and making it available for public purchase.
Okay, so is it fair to say, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but has he contacted all the other abutters in addition to the
Yes.
town? He has, okay,
That's why Jeff is here tonight. He's one of
Yeah.
the abutters.
because he learned of it from that. Okay.
Correct, yeah.
I didn't hear what Catherine's question was, but I think I got the gist of it. I got the gist of it from the answer, so.
I mean, there are, things that I would like to say, but I'm not sure I would like to say them in front of the realtor.
Well, I'd just like to say that if, for Jessica, for your information, if the town is interested, we would have to go to a town meeting for this. With the Board of Selectmen does not have the authority to purchase real property. We could either, and we have one coming up in June.
Yes.
Okay.
And I
so
think, so just to clarify, so I think if the select board decided that they wanted to pursue it, then Mr. Klein would wait prior to taking any further action to allow that to take place.
Okay,
That's my question.
that's good information then.
Yeah, he hasn't said that explicitly, but I know that he wanted to take these steps first to give an abutter an opportunity. So if that were the
Right.
case, I can certainly go back to him with that
Yeah.
information and convince him to do that.
Yeah, I just didn't want you to think we could turn this around in a
No.
week or something.
No,
So,
no,
Okay.
the wheels turn slowly, I know, yes.
Yeah. So with that, I'll make a motion. We go into executive session and I don't have the citation in front of me.
But I will
Sure.
I just want to
Oh,
put out there
hold on,
too,
go ahead,
I
Nick.
can certainly provide my contact information. If anyone has any questions after, during, at any time, I'm happy to provide you with whatever you need for your decision making.
Well, Terry, is there a way that we could just get Jessica back into the meeting when we come out?
If I could contact her and tell her to come back in. Do you have can I text you?
Sure. You ready?
Yep.
It's 207
Mhm.
504 6173,
Mhm.
and I'll just stand by in case you need me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So
Okay,
with that, I'll make a motion. We enter executive session in accordance with Title
Title 1, Chapter 3.1, Paragraph 405 C for property, but I'd also like to add A for personnel because there's a separate issue that we should talk about.
Well, if we're gonna ask, if we're gonna ask these people to hang around, do you think that's gonna be quick, Jeff, the personnel
Yes,
one?
yeah, that should be real quick.
Okay. All right, I'll make that a motion.
I second that.
Any further discussion? John,
John, I.
Sue,
Aye.
Jeff, I. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.